meet you too, ma'am. No problem.
Good day and welcome. Welcome again to the Love Bay um, talk show. We are here today. We are excited to be here. We have a very important guest in our midst, Dr. MacDonald. It
Yes,
is
we
so
do.
good. Yeah, we have an important guest here who's going to share us some wealth of knowledge. But we want to say good day to our listening audience who wherever you're listening to us all around the world. We are here again I am Dr. Alvin Hepburn with my host, Dr. Maria MacDonald out of Nassau, Bahamas. And we are going to be talking today with Minister Ralph Hepburn, who is a financial consultant analyst. I let him talk about all of his accolades when he comes on. He will let us know exactly who he is and why he's here talking to us today. But you will see that our topic, we want to talk about good stewardship in our finances. And Doc, one of the things in all of my counseling and in my reading, they tend to say there are two things that can destroy a marriage early on. One is sex, and the next one is finances.
Yes,
So that's
that's it.
why we want to talk about this. And for those of you who are just tuning in, you are watching the program, the Relationship and Marriage Hour. Yes, you are watching this program, and we are so excited to have Ralph Hepburn out of Freeport, Grand Bahama. We're going to introduce him in a little bit. But Dr. MacDonald, what you got to say?
Okay, good afternoon to each and everyone that are listening into that this afternoon. I am excited because, as
Yes.
you've said, Dr. Alvin, this is one of the things that break up marriages, the
Mhm.
finances. And
Yes.
especially if you have one who is a spendthrift and one who loves to save, that's
Mhm.
right there, red flag for relationships. So
Mhm.
we are going to learn some things this afternoon, and I'm excited. And I want our listening audience, pull up your chair and come and hear what
Yes.
this young man has to tell us, how we ought to be good stewards of our finances. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. And without further ado, I want to introduce to the world Minister Ralph Hepburn. How are you doing today, sir?
Good afternoon to everyone. I am doing
Minister
okay.
Hepburn? Okay, good.
Yes.
Now, if you would see, me and his last name are the same because I have known him all my life. He is one
I've
of
known you
my
for that.
elder brothers. Uh, yes, he is my older brother, and when he shared with me, Dr. MacDonald years ago, that
Uh-huh.
he was even going to open a company, and one of the things that his company was going to do was to help people or tell people how to spend their money. I didn't say it to him, but I said, "Who is paying people to tell them how to spend their money?" I
That's
didn't think
something.
that that was even a good idea. But
Yes.
apparently, it's been helping him all of these years. So I want you, Ralph, to introduce yourself and then tell us a little bit about your business background. And then we will start diving into how we can be good stewards with our finances.
Yes.
Okay. Good afternoon to everyone. Thank you very much for this opportunity. As mentioned, my name is Ralph. I like to put in there R. Hepburn. I'm the fourth
Yes.
of nine children,
Wow.
born into the family of little means. Conservatism was a part of life and still played a part moving forward. I ended up in the financial arena because one, I was very good with numbers. I've always been good with numbers and with
Mhm.
analysis and stuff like that. And believe it or not, I wanted to be a surgeon. I wanted to be a doctor, but due to limited resources, I could only go into school for 4 years instead of 10. So I did the second best thing I was good at, which was uh, banking and finance. I love dealing with numbers, dealing with figures, and it also was a means to help persons. I started out in banking, worked in banking for 6 years, and with what drew me to wanting to help people to learn how to spend their money was being a loan officer, having to deal with people who would come to the bank every year to get loans to go on vacation. And it
Yes.
thought, why would you buy money, I mean, borrow money that you should have been saving over the past year to go and spend to come back next year again to do the same thing? One of the things I used to tell persons then was, do you realize that if you take that same monthly payment you're making on the loan and set it aside every month, you would have more than the money that you're borrowing, because in addition to the amount you're borrowing minus bank fees, you would have that plus the interest. So you
Yeah.
have more spending power.
Mhm.
And so that kind of gave me the impetus to want to get more into the management side, which was also implanted in me by one of my college professors, Dr. Poitier. She was my advisor, and I always, she was a financial planner, and that always interests me. So that's why I kind of stepped away from banking to go into financial consulting and
Mhm.
planning, because uh, it's a way of empowering people to control their destiny. And once you're empowered to control your destiny, you become more aware of what you're capable of and how much of an impact you have on everything surrounding you and where you're going in life.
Mhm.
So that's basically.
Wow.
Mhm.
Go on, go on. But I just wanted to say something there. Boy, I don't know if I open a bank, I want you working in the loans department. Because you trying to educate them on how not for me to make the money, but they to keep that
Exactly.
money.
Yeah, but
Hmm.
one of the things is when we did the course for loans officers, I remember that the who was, she was in the HR department responsible for training. She said to me, based on an answer I gave her, if I would advise guests, Ralph, wow, you're gonna be. I guess you look at things differently, and you have to look at how you weigh the bank's interest against the customer's
Yes,
interest, and you have to balance the two and look like you're on the right path. Because whereas banks are into making money, the persons they lend money to are people who just want to borrow, as people who know how to handle and manage it properly. Because
that's
if
right.
you just borrowing and don't know how to handle it, then you become a risk of paying it back.
That's
Which is
right.
true. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. So what else have you done over the years in the financial arena?
Okay, after leaving banking in '96, I went into accounting full time. Me and a cousin and someone who's a best friend of mine started a company in 1996 called Rags to Riches Consulting, business and personal consulting. What the focus was then was basically helping companies and individuals better manage their financial affairs. It ranged from a personal level, being able to budget, track your expenses, plan for the future, and invest. From a business side, it was more from setting up business plans, day to day monitoring of your financial transactions and everything else, providing monthly, quarterly, and annual reports as needed, even to where we went as far as helping prepare IPOs for persons that wanted to move forward with their businesses.
What
Me
is an
and
IPO? What is an IPO?
initial public offering, that's what you have to present, and you want to sell shares to the public in your company.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
that is what we did. Uh, and beyond that, we move into working with other accountants in joint form when it came to multiple things. We help with bringing some persons in to help properly train persons aspiring to be CPAs and all those stuff. Even moving into immigration processing in the Bahamas, which is somewhat of a big thing, getting people to become more aware of the process to bring people in to work in companies and to help them to get acclimated to the whole society.
Okay. Okay. That's good
Awesome.
stuff. That
Yes.
Mhm.
is awesome. That is awesome. And then I think you branched off from there and started your own company.
year, in 2007, uh, me and my friend, we both continued in the same vein, but at separate companies, helping different clientele. It moved on to where I got some offers from companies that wanted me to work with them full time because of my involvement, while still being able to have clients on the side. So whenever it got to the point where I was taking on too many clients, I just call on him, which I do now. It's to the point even where I have a company where I'm the financial controller, he still works with me,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
helping and stuff. And I still send persons to him. So it's something that it isn't all about me. Sharing the wealth and being able to, because in order to properly manage your affairs, you have to understand your limits. And that's what I have to do. What
Yes.
first thing
Yes. Yes.
you have to understand your limits.
Yes.
Okay. Now, before I start asking questions to help others, I want you. I want to know the key principle, Ralph, as to what you use to manage your personal affairs. What is your
Okay.
your key principle, your guiding light? I'll say.
For me, it's always been, and this was placed in me a while back when I started out by the Holy Spirit, which was Psalms 112 and 5. Now, many versions have it differently, but the part that got to me was the King James Version, where it says, "A good man lendeth and showeth favor, and he guides his affairs with discretion." And when you look
Yes.
into that, basically, uh, wealth gaining is not all about accumulating, stocking up, and stockpiling. If we go back to
Wow.
when you remember the servant, the parable that Jesus told to the rich man about the barns being filled. This man
Yes.
was stockpiling for himself, not realizing that his end was near.
Mhm.
Invest in others in both financial and by other means, and be able to, whatever you have, be able to share to help others, which is going back also a biblical principle, lend not expecting anything in return.
Oh
Uh,
Lord, you sure that
so
in the Bible? Take that
yes, it
one from
is.
me.
I had to research that when I was lending a lot of money, not getting anybody back. Then I saw that hit me. I actually read the Bible and found it in the book of St. John. Lend not expecting anything in return. So now what I do, whenever anyone would borrow money, I said how much I could afford to give without asking for it back. The basic
Exactly.
Yes,
afford to give without
yes,
asking for it back is the amount that I'm going to lend.
yes.
That is so
Makes
true.
sense. And
Mhm.
I've learned that from you too, and that's the same thing that I do. If
Mhm.
it's gonna
Exactly.
hurt me, if you don't give it back, I don't lend that amount. I lend you that.
Mhm.
Okay, if it never comes back, I'm fine.
I can
Good,
do
good,
Yes.
good.
without it.
Dr. McDonald, you
Yes.
can jump in anytime,
Yes.
and you can ask him a question because I want to then move on to how finances affect families and all of that type stuff and
Exactly.
get to that budgeting stuff. But do you have any questions, Dr. McDonald, for
I
Auntie?
certainly do. Actually, I have two. Um, the first one, I want to go back to what you said about lending to persons who go on vacation and,
Mhm.
borrow money just to go on that vacation. What if that person has a heavy bank account, which they do not want to use, but they want to use the bank's money? Is that a wise thing to do? Because based on the interest you're paying back, you know, is that wise for couples to do?
The thing I always look at is the spread. When I say the spread, let me just go back to basics. Central bank lends currently at 4%, right? And the bank spread is always prime plus because the central bank's lending rate is called the prime rate. So that's 4%. So all loans are done at prime plus. And that plus is where the bank will make money in the event they have to borrow from central bank. Also, whatever you have on your account is never as high as the prime rate. Current rates, I think the maximum you will find now is 1.5% on your savings, not your
Mhm.
investment, but your savings. So when you look at it, you have a hefty bank account that you're holding for retirement, and you don't want to break it or spend out of it, so you want to borrow. How much? What is the spread or the margin you're borrowing at? can be as high because vacation loans can go as high as 13 or higher, 13, 14%.
What?
So you
That's a lot.
basically spending close to
Yeah.
12% on whatever you're borrowing compared to what you have saved. So the best thing would be is this is what I do personally every year. I save based on each member of my family a certain amount for vacation. And that's what vacation is going to be. If I want more, then I have to put more into that. I also put it on an account that pays me interest during that period
Hmm.
so that I can basically, in addition to creating the savings, my goal is to raise $5,000. I'm saving towards that 5,000, and at the end of that period, I'm going to have 5,000 plus whatever interest was paid during that period. Uh,
Right.
that's why I would encourage you to do it that way. Now, in order for you to have generated that hefty bank account means that you know how to save. So
Right.
you can then set aside a savings measure. So if you were saving out of the 100% you put towards your retirement savings, you can put 10 to 20% of that towards your vacation savings. And that way you don't lose anything. And in both aspects, you're gaining from the interest that is being paid. I mean, paid is generous, but by the interest, the bank will think about giving you whenever it comes.
Right.
Yes.
Wonderful. Now, does the same thing apply when they are purchasing a home?
Not necessarily,
Right.
because home is can be, depending on how you go about it, can be one of your biggest investments. Because the cost when you look at a home compared to even a car or any other expenses, it's almost like 10 times the amount, minimum of 10 to 20 times the cost. So you want to get a mortgage that where you can get a fixed rate, not necessarily a variable rate, but a fixed rate, and you want to get it for the longest term possible. I always
Hmm.
try to come up with the maximum down payment and set it out for the longest term possible, but still try to make the payments as if you were doing it in half that time. That way, you reduce the interest that you pay on that mortgage. In the
Hmm.
Bahamas, most banks do not enforce a balloon payment or a payment on principal to reduce it before the expiration date. So you can negotiate that and get away with making extra payments on your mortgage to bring it down. But
Yes.
mortgage, uh, saving towards building or construction or buying, in the time it'll take for you to do that, it is more advantageous to get the mortgage.
Hmm. Yes. Yes. And you save your money.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Because I saw a couple that did that. No, they didn't. They were advised to do it. Rather, they took the saving, the cold cash that they had, and built that home. So as they got into difficulty, they didn't have that savings anymore. So it means they had to find that money to pay that mortgage, you know. So I always look at that for young couple coming up. It's always better to use the bank's money and leave that savings. And as
Uh-huh.
you said, use a fixed rate and spread it for a long period of time. So even if you run into problems, you don't have to worry about a high payment.
Yes. Mhm.
Yeah,
And when you do have the additional payments, you can always apply it to your principal.
exactly. Yeah, good stuff. So my next question then is for couples, in your experience as a bank a loan officer, what type of situation or problems you would have seen or challenges you would have seen among couples that are trying to borrow money, husband, wife, or significant other? What are some of the challenges that they faced, and how could they have done it differently and still achieve what they were after?
Uh, two cases comes to mind very quickly, and this is basically involving two couples that were one was construct or two are constructing a home from start. Uh, don't ever try to manage projects that you're not equipped to manage.
Mm,
Uh, we gave a mortgage to a couple where the wife, where she was a manager of a business, where she had support externally business and local, she wasn't very well at handling funds that flow through her hands. So she ended up having overruns that were extremely high, and the house to this day is not finished.
What?
Oh,
Yes, the bank had to foreclose on it, and every time I pass the house, I look at it and say, "Wow, if she had
wow.
just had a contractor or someone who knew how to do construction, manage it, it would have gone better." The
Oh,
second
wow.
one was where a husband and wife, they got the mortgage, the house was completed, but they were not on the same page in terms of who actually is managing the funds and decision making. They were not on the same page. So they got the house finished, and it created problems for them later in life that today they're no longer married. The house has
Wow.
been sold and stuff like that. So my thing has
Oh,
always
wow.
been, and this is something I think when you get into a relationship, you need to understand. I know Dr. Alvin talked about two things that break up marriage, right?
Mm,
One of the things for me is communication is top priority. And if you can't fully disclose and communicate on every aspect of that relationship going forward, there's going to be problems. There are too
yes.
many times you go and where people have private accounts uh, that no one knows about. And when I say that, if you want to have a separate account for you as the husband and a separate account for you as the wife, fine. But whatever you're doing together, there should be one joint account that everyone contributes to, and it's an agreed amount that you're going to contribute to towards whatever project you're going forward on. And you have to stick to that. Be committed to it and stick to that. And if you can contribute more, then discuss it, agree on it, and do that. But don't uh, step up to the plate withholding information that is going to be important to the well-being of the project as well as all future endeavors.
Mhm.
You know, that is something, and I'm glad you touched that point about the private accounts, because that is something that happens in relationship. One person may be saving, I'm saving this just in case. But if everything is put into one pot and we work it from that perspective, I think it's better. But when you have these private accounts, a party doesn't know about it, and you're building that account. So when one they find out, it's a problem because
Mhm,
that other spouse will feel you're trying to keep something from me. Why is this account? I don't know about it.
mhm.
Speak to it about these private accounts. What type of breakup? How can this really affect negatively a relationship?
In a relationship, in terms of guiding your affairs with discretion, this is how I look at it. Discretion doesn't mean secrecy. Discretion is being well planned, well thought of, and properly put together. So if I'm going to have an account set up that my wife doesn't have access to, or the mortgage doesn't have access to, or the utilities, then that's going to be specified, well known. So I'm going to basically, it's going to be disclosed up front that we're going to have a vacation account, we're going to have a tuition account, account, a retirement account, and this is what's going there. So when it comes to monies being set aside, out of my salary, this here, here, and here. So you can't then say, oh, I need to pull from here when it's not set up for that discretionary account. We're going to live within the means of what we both put into the discretionary account. And these accounts are going to go for these purposes if that's what we're trying to achieve. And if we can't do that, that means we have problems with our spending habits. The adjustment isn't to the savings, it has to be adjusted. The adjustments need to be made to the spending habits. And so full disclosure is necessary because the person you decide to spend your life with should be someone you can trust. And you have no problem being fully open to and sharing things with. If that's a problem, then you should not have stepped into that relationship.
One last question,
And
though.
let me just,
One
oh, go on.
one last question before I move away from this topic. We have you listed three accounts, and give or take, someone may have labeled different. What if,
Mm-hmm.
because if you work, you should pay yourself. What if when I pay myself, I take my money and I put it in a separate account? I wanted to save my money, and that's what I pay myself from every week, or every
Your
month.
discretionary account.
But it will be my own.
Yeah. So what you do with your money, what you do with your discretionary money is your business. You might not be a spender. You might say, okay, I have an account set up for vacation, but I want to go shopping to replenish my wardrobe every time I go. So you might save towards that. Fine. You might be saying, okay, we have funds set aside for retirement. But I think based on the way the world is going, inflation is increasing, that I think I'm going to need more. So I'm going to set aside even more out of my discretionary account towards that, or to invest in these stocks that are being offered that I think it's a good investment and I want to try it out. Fine, because that's your discretionary account. But you shouldn't then reduce what you have committed to the other accounts without full disclosure in terms of discussing it. But this is my discretionary account. I want to do this with it. It's my business, because that's why it's called my discretionary account. If I want to eat KFC
Right.
today, I can eat KFC. If I want to eat bamboo shot, that's for my discretionary account.
Good. Wonderful. That's good. Doc.
One of the things I have found, Dr. Maria, and even Brother Ralph, one of the things I have found from my years of counseling is, and this is what shocked me. This blows my mind just about every time. The couple, I don't mind. You have my body. I have your body. We could hang out. We could do all kind of stuff. We could travel together and all kinds of. But then when I go to do that discussion on money, it is like these two people are not. No, 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 no. That's his money. His money
Yeah.
is his money. My money is my money.
Mm-hmm.
It is like a whole different spirit comes in the room when you go to talk about money.
Mhm.
And I put this before you, Minister Hepburn. How do you help young couples that are watching us all around the world? How do you help them navigate through this financial aspect of their relationship, seeing that it is an important one? How do you help them with that?
The
What can
thing,
you tell
sorry,
them? No, no, go
okay.
on. What can you tell them?
What I would start with is, first of all, when the Bible talks about they're no longer twain but one flesh,
Uh-huh.
that was the writer's interpretation of saying what God said to him is they no longer can be separated. But you technically, when you look at it scientifically, you can't be one flesh, right? But you
Yes.
can have one mindset,
Yes. Yes.
one vision, one goal. So the first thing in the marriage counseling session is that getting married is more than just a physical joining together of two people, but it's
Uh-huh.
joining your resources together, your talents, your giftings, and your goals, shared goals. And we
Yes.
have to understand, in order for us to make it work, we all have to be on the same, in the same boat all the time. We might we might not all agree on certain stuff, but we have to discuss it and look at it. One of the things is, and I hate the saying where yours, normally said to the man, whatever's yours is mine, and the woman always say whatever is mine is mine.
No,
No,
foolishness. Foolishness.
with the biggest 1,000%, which we know don't exist. But
Yes.
yeah, whatever is ours is
Is ours.
ours.
Yes.
We just have to be careful how we manage it. And if
Yes.
I want to keep a expenditure account for me, then we agree that we have a discretionary account and I do whatever I want with this money.
Yes. Yes.
My salary, I know your salary. We all know what the expenses are before us. We all know what our goals are, our aspiration, our retirement plan. We know what that's for. We know what our tuition savings is if we're having one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine, 10 children. We have to.
Ooh.
I'm just saying. I've said that you go there and do that, but
Yeah.
we know vacation, where we want to take vacation and what we want to spend on vacation, the type of clothes we want to wear, all that stuff. We plan these things. Where we want to live, whether we want to live in $1 million house or $500,000 house, whether we want to drive Mercedes or we drive Sentra. We plan according to these stuff. And basically, at the end of the day, when we set these goals, we know it's going to take this amount for each person to contribute, for everyone to be satisfied. Whatever's left is yours. That there, you don't need my input on what you do with it. That's yours. If you want to tell me, fine. If you want me to be involved in helping you make the best decisions, fine. But I am not going to down to the fact that you can't spend your discretionary funds without my knowledge or without my input. But as for these agreed upon goals where we are no longer twain but one, we all agree on these stuff.
Good stuff.
And believe it or not, each person has to have a willingness to come to an understanding that your mindset must be that you're no longer individuals anymore in certain aspects of your life. They're no longer individual decisions. When it comes to raising your children and planning for them, that's a financial commitment. When it comes to where you're going to live, what you're going to drive, those are financial commitments that both of you want to make. Even though you might be driving two separate cars, you still need to say, hey, which one can we afford? Because if one of us was to have a drop in income, whether it's through unemployment or change in the economy, can I still afford to take care of the insurance for both vehicles? Can I on myself take care of the servicing and the maintenance and the gas and all that thing on both vehicles? Can I pay all the utility bills in one house on my own?
Mm-hmm.
And those are the decisions you make when you're on one page.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Good stuff. Good stuff. Now, is there a formula? Is there a 10, 20, 80 rule? Is there something that you can say to our listening audience as they begin now to sit down and begin to plan their future? As to, because you talk about this discretionary account, you talk about this account for the bills and all of that. How much out of my salary, how much of what I make should I put towards these different parts or these different accounts? What is a basic rule that they can start with?
A basic rule is basically, where, depending on where you're living, certain things change. But this is the way I was advised. Take, for instance, your housing. Your housing should never be more than 30% of your combined income. Your monthly cost on your housing should be never more than 30%. Your transportation should never be more than 15%.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm. Because when you take it at the housing, transportation, because when you look at that's already 45%, you're already halfway there. And I've been telling you 10% of that was supposed to be tithes already.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm. So that's already 65%. And in beyond tithing, remember, I always tell people one of the things we don't teach people about tithing is tithing was actually 30%, not 10. But that's a different discussion for a different time.
Yes.
Okay. But then, in addition to tithing, you say, "Be God loves what is it?
A cheerful giver."
Don't cheer me with no dollar bill.
Yeah.
Don't cheer me with no $5 bill. Be a cheerful giver. My thing is, I've always taught that your offering should have been no less than 5%. It could be more, but no less than 5%. So that's already 70% right there. So tuition and education. You have existing tuition as well as future tuition, which is another 10%, could be close to 10%, because you got to plan for college and you got to plan for those children when you want to put them in private school.
Wow.
You're already at 70, right?
Yes, that's 80 now, eh?
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. When you look at it, so now taking out of that your vacation expense, and you can see your vacation being around 5% of your income. You don't have to always go to Paris. You could always try someplace else. They do have other places you can go to that gives you more excitement as well. And then you have to look at replenishing wardrobe on an annual basis. You got to look at medical expenses. Your insurances, try to keep your insurances under 5% of your income, your premiums. Try to keep them under 5%, so wherever you can. I know we like to say for major persons like major medical insurance, right? I always want you to weigh it in terms of the actual need compared to your actual earnings. The more you make, the more you're able to afford, and the more those percentage increase in terms of dollar value. Okay,
Yeah.
so those are things you have to think about. And as best as you can, stay away from unnecessary debt. Stay away from unnecessary debt.
Explain what that is. What is an unnecessary debt?
Banks make the most of their money from consumer spending. That is, every time you want to you get with impulse buying. Say, for instance, you see a nice TV. You have a 58-inch TV, but you see a 60-inch TV, or you see a 72-inch TV. The thing is, you want to compare a Samsung versus an LG or a Hisense TV. Samsung, of course, to me, sorry, but as I promote, Samsung is my brand, top of the line. But
Okay.
when you compare a Samsung to Hisense, you might get the same quality out of a Hisense that you get out of the Samsung based on the fact of what you want to use the product for. So don't just spend the money for the brand name. Spend the money according to what you're using the product for. I always look at it, I got a Samsung Note 10 phone when it came out. I think I spent about $1,400 for the phone, and I have still yet to use all the features the phone provides.
Wow. Wow.
So why I spent all that money on a phone, because there were certain aspects about it I like beyond it being a Samsung, but there are certain things on it I have yet to use that they promoted the sale for.
Uh-huh.
So that's what you have to look at when you're spending money in terms of buying stuff. Do you really need a Broyhill furniture set as compared to another name brand?
Yes. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Do you really need a this is another thing. Which type of appliances would you buy compare on what you're going to use them for? You know?
Yes. Yes.
Certainly.
Mhm.
Um,
Talk on.
yes. Mr. Hepburn, we know that people tend to want what they see right away. No delayed
Yes.
gratification, right?
Hmm.
Why don't you speak to us about delayed gratification? How can it benefit the relationship? Because sometimes, you know, what speaking about myself, sometimes I see something, I may not need it today, but I want it
Mhm.
Hmm.
in case I need it later.
Yeah.
You know, I may not
I
have the
want it,
money,
and I want it now.
right? You know, I may not
Okay,
have the money later.
I can do this now. The JG Wentworth says now, Larry Burkett.
That's what
La-
I'm saying.
Larry Burkett said use the 30-day rule. If you see something that you think you need now, not that you know, you think you need now, look at it, and they take 30 days to analyze it compared to everything else of the same name brand, the same product type, and the purpose behind why you're going to buy it or what you want it
30
for.
days? That's a
It's a thing.
long time.
It's a thing
I
because
know,
then
yeah.
just look at it. What you think you can see out there that you need to buy, that you need to have within 30 days, that's not life threatening or medically needed. Do you really need a car within 30 days? Because sometimes when you go through the loan, it'll take you close to 30 days to get it.
That is true. That is true.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Even a house. When you look at even, do you really need a phone if you have in 30 days?
Yeah.
You might have a $500 phone. Do you need to upgrade to the newest Apple brand right away?
Mm,
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Makes sense. Makes
Yeah,
sense.
it doesn't necessarily have to be 30 days, right? But I'm saying 30 to basically a month to think about it. And in that process, you go and you gather information, you look at consumer reports, you look at different feedback, and because everyone that buys product now, they give you an analysis of that product. And sometimes when you go online and you see something you want, let me use this for instance. You might see a brand new computer laptop that has everything you want, and then when you go on the feedback from the customers who bought it, they had issues with it.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so then you would say, nah, I think I need to look at something else, because
Mm-hmm.
some of them get called back for certain issues.
Yes.
You take the time to analyze and see, is this something that's of an immediate need, or can it wait? And do I need to get that particular product, or can I get something else that's comparable?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thinking about the ladies now. I'm thinking about the ladies.
Yes,
We
yes,
go in
yes.
the store, we buy these lovely gowns, and then we
Mhm.
push it to the back of the closet, and maybe a couple months later we pull it out. So when we wear it, is there something new? Your spouse may ask you if that's something new. Oh no, this was in the closet a long time. Speak
Uh-huh.
to the ladies that do such, you know.
Yeah, 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 and those ladies, I hope they control their weight properly, because when you buy something now based on your size, you don't know what you're going to be in 30 days later, and those things. So one of the things I look at with that, one I always used to say to my wife, if you're not going to use it, why buy it to sit in the closet to catch dust? The whole idea of buying stuff is so that you can use it and that you can benefit from it. Don't just buy something that you put away that you don't see and no one sees. What gratification you're gonna get from just saying, "Oh, I own a couture dress," if you never find a place to wear a couture dress? Just
That's a
a
good
lot of
point.
us,
Good,
we
good
have a
point.
mindset that, oh, I must have this product. I must be able to tell people I have this product, but when are they going to see you in it? You buy it according to the occasion that fits it. So if you want to buy even a headpiece or a shoe or a gown, whatever, what occasion am I purchasing this for? Am I going to be able to wear this uh, when that occasion come around? And and also, I know we might not like this. For men, it isn't a big issue, but can I wear this on multiple occasions without people bought it before?
Yeah.
Wear the same suit
I
over and over
Yeah,
with
make sure,
different
because when
shirt.
you get a particular color, that's another thing. A particular color and style, people tend to don't notice it that much.
right.
Mhm.
Or if you switch it up, switch the bottom, but you wear the same top, or vice versa.
Yeah.
Um, because we do it for travel. When you travel, you have maybe one jacket and you have the bottom, multiple bottoms that can go
Mhm.
with it.
Mhm.
But one of the things I believe causes a lot of problem in the relationship when it comes to finances is when you have one that loves spending and one that spend on impulse.
Mhm.
And as you said, sometimes they don't need it because they end up giving it away because
Yeah.
they didn't wear it, and maybe they add some inches so they can't get in it.
Mhm.
And I believe this is some of the things that will cause relationship breakup because they're
Mhm.
not being good steward of the finances. Tell us, how can we curb those habits for the female, especially? Because the first, if the man tells her, look, leave that for later, let's do what we have to do now, it can cause an argument. So we want our sisters to hear this, whatever you
Mhm.
would let us know. But we need
And
to know how to work with
believe it or
our
not,
spouse.
it isn't always women that have that problem. Some men too. And this is why I like the digital age that we're moving into. And I would encourage, in situations like that, you do not have credit cards. You have debit
Mhm.
cards, but you do not have credit cards. Second thing
Good
is,
stuff.
make sure those debit cards are tied to that discretionary account. So whenever you use all those funds, you have to wait a while until you get paid again and deposit funds into that account to spend again. Uh, so
Yeah,
make
yeah.
yeah, debit cards are tied to a particular account. Uh, in a sense like that, you might have to get to the point where those joint accounts that are saved for certain for special projects and that it's an and account, not an or account. And what I was saying is an and account means both of us have to sign to withdraw funds from this account and not
Yeah.
or anyone. And so for persons who are impulse shoppers and buyers and have a lack of control when it comes to managing their finances, those are the first thing I will do beyond consulting. That's what I would advise that uh, 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 you do is basically have them tied where they know they have a limited amount of resources to spend, so they can only spend after that. They only have a certain time frame in which they can use that, and they don't have access on to add to that without approval from their partner.
Good stuff. You know, Mr. Hepburn, that is something. I have a debit card that is not even linked to my accounts. If I don't put money there, money can't spend. So whatever I want to spend, I put the money there, and I find that works perfectly for me. You know.
Yes.
So
Uh-huh.
just let us pause right here to let our listening audience know that we are live on online radio, Love Bay Radio, and you can tune in. You can send us your comments. You can send us your questions. We would be happy to answer those questions. So um, you can also subscribe to our radio station by YouTube. You can go to Instagram, X, IT. Please link into one of those social media and click subscribe. We would love to hear from you. So, yes, Mr. Hepburn, Doc.
Yes. Yeah. Boy, this is this is real good. I am really enjoying it. You are doing an awesome job. Um, boy, how do we help? Because we're winding down now. How do we help the couple that is in the my category? And I know you touched on it, but I want to give them um, some strong things that they can hold on to, some practical things that they can do to better their financial situation. I remember, and this is me hinting to you in where I want you to go. I remember being in a seminar that you did years ago, and you made this problem that your salary is not your problem. Your problem is how you spend.
Mhm. Living within your means.
Yes,
That's
I
right.
want you to. I want you to get there. Because we have a man and a woman coming. They got good dreams. The sky is the limit. We don't want to stop them from thinking, but we need them to be realistic.
And to get to that is where you really need to make a concerted, determined, consistent effort to live by a budget, which means you must set a budget. You put together, you know what your income is from your primary job and any additional income. You need to put that together, know what it is, you know what your expenses are, and you lay that out month by month, and you try to live within that. If you cannot do that on your own, and this is where the idea for Rags to Riches came from, get a financial planner or someone who can be a money manager for you. It's not expensive. They can help you to manage your funds, and once you can stick to it, you don't need to have them do it for you on a continual basis. Then you can just every once in a while get advice where you think you might be falling off or any new trends that come on that needs to be explained to you. You need to understand that I remember one time I was hiring, doing some interviews for some persons for one of my clients, and the lady said to me, "Oh, you all got to pay me more because my expenses are such, such, and such." I said, "Ma'am, I'm not paying you according to your expenses. I'm paying you for the job that I'm hiring you for. So if you want to, I can pay you for the job. You just need to adjust your expenses to fit into your And we don't like to do that. And that's why we get into the place where we overextend ourselves. We need to curb what we don't need. We don't have to eat out every day. We don't have to buy lunch every day and breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Learn to find means to cut expenses on non essentials. For instance, going back to Dr. McDonald in the closet, don't buy the couture dress. Go down to 17 shop. They got good clothes. You know, go to a place, something good quality. Make sure you purchase quality items. But learn to understand that you cannot continue to live in a lifestyle that is sending you more into the hole every day. Your lifestyle must be adjusted. If you don't voluntarily do it, something else is going to force you to do it. You have to adjust your lifestyle to fit within the means in which you have. And I'm not saying you're going to stay at that means, but while you're there, you need to then develop and equip yourself so that you can then become more of a valued asset to increase your earning potential. So you do all two one time. As you control your expenses, you build yourself up to become a more valued asset so you can demand more because you're more of a producer that deserves more. And then because you've trained yourself so well, instead of the expenditure side increasing with the income side, the saving side should be increasing with the income side.
Okay.
Yes.
Is there a minimum? My wife tends to call it a cushion that we should have in savings, um, just in case.
It's based on income. It's based on your overall income and your lifestyle. For instance, if you want to say, uh, I would normally aim for a minimum of 90 days, 3 months. Make sure whatever you set aside can cover your expenses for at least 3 months. That gives you time to find something else to start making an income again, being more productive. Some people would go longer depending on what area of profession you're in, but a minimum of 3 months you want to set aside. That's not say savings towards something, but this is just set aside in the event we become unemployed or our earnings drop to below normal. This should carry us for at least 3 months. All of our essential expenses and and all our things that we need to live for these 3 months. So I
Uh,
can't put a dollar figure on it because that dollar figure depends on your income and your
yes.
expenses.
Yeah. I remember, Brother Ralph, when my wife and I we went looking for houses when we moved back to the Bahamas. Coming from America, we went looking for a place to stay, and when we decided on which house we were going to get, we went to the bank to fill out the forms to do all of the stuff to get the mortgage, and the mortgage person looked at us and said, y'all know y'all qualify for more, right? Y'all don't have to get this house, y'all can get something better, right?
Mhm.
And I looked at my wife, she looked at me, and we smiled and we said, we know what we can do, but we want, we had said, if anything happens to one of us, the next one should still be able to take care of the mortgage.
That's
Mhm.
good.
And
That's
that's
good.
how you plan.
Yes.
And that's how we planned.
Mhm.
So actually, they actually was laughing at us at the bank, but we look back because there was a time in our my recent time I was unemployed for 4 years. I didn't have a full-time job for 4 years, but
Mhm.
we never missed out. Our
The
mortgage
payment.
was always paid.
Mhm.
That's
Because we set it up that even if one of us don't have a job, we still safe. The
Yes.
next one income is just to add, we put that on the principal, that we cut it down.
Mhm.
And
And
how does that sound to the
that's
wife?
how it should be. That's how
yes.
it should be because
I learned that
aside,
from you, by the way.
yeah, thank you very much. Because aside from death, let me explain this now. Aside from death, where the insurance kicks in and pays off the mortgage, if either one become unemployed, it still has to be paid.
So
The
Hey.
that's
bank wants its money and it wants its interest.
Uh-huh.
And the
That's it.
power company wants its utility bills to be
Yes.
paid. All
Yes.
of those things have to be paid. So you want, like I said, you want to have things set aside to cover at least 3 months, but also on your expenditure. I think I said it earlier. If one of us was to be without income for a while, can we still afford to live at this level?
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
And that's how you should always do it. And now, I mean, it works different in a single income house. But
Yes.
once you have two incomes, you should always work towards what would happen if one of us is not able to contribute. And then, if you want to be very stringent with it, then your plans are based on the fact that everything is going to be based on the one who makes the less. So if you let me use if you're making 100% more than your spouse, either way, or even 50% more than your spouse, whatever your expenses are, those joint expenses, mortgage, utilities, education, vacation savings, and stuff like that, it's based on the lower income.
Oh wow.
Yeah, because say for instance, the one who makes the most goes in your like how you said for 4 years, or even say they
Yes.
go 6 months of unemployment. You know how much strain that's going to be on the other person who wasn't making as much,
yeah.
So true.
and then that's when there's going to be a lot of fighting. And
Yeah.
you said the two things in a marriage. That first one ain't gonna happen because the
If
other
this,
person is getting too much stress.
That's right.
that is true.
So
That
true.
is true. Been there, done that. Oh
Wow.
wow, we are wrapping up. We are wrapping up, Dr. MacDonald. Listen, um, Ralph Hepburn has come and steal the show. What
Sorry.
nuggets and what wisdom he has imparted on us, the listening audience. Those of you who are listening all around the world, we are joined today with our special guest, Ralph R. Hepburn. Yes, he is talking to us about being a good steward of our finances, individually and as a couple. He has laid out some nuggets that I know if you put them into practice, it will work. Well, how you know that? Because I have put many of them into practice, and it is still working in my marriage, and it is still working in my life. Uh, and I thank you so much, Minister Hepburn. But as we labor to close, we say it all the time, we are not out of material, we just out of time. But we want you to give us a summary on how best, how best we can alleviate the stress, because we need number one to happen. How best can we alleviate the stress that our finances will run smoother and our relationship will be better? How what is the best thing you could say in a minute you can say to those listening to us?
The best thing is always open, clear, concise communication, full disclosure, agreed upon plans of where we're going and set goals, shared input in budgeting and planning, and trying your best to stay within your means as it relates to your discretionary spending as well as any major purchases. Think before you act. Think before you act. How
Power,
you going to affect the goals that you have set and your future that you're planning for, because your money that you're earning today is not only for today, it's for days and years to come.
powerful.
Good stuff.
Dr. McDonald?
Good stuff. I'm going to put Mr. Hepburn on the spot right here now. We haven't even talked about the budgeting side of it and the investing side. Can you help us by being our guest again next week, Sunday? So give us some more on the budgeting side and how to invest what you have. Because when they put money in the bank, it doesn't mean they're getting anything from that.
Mhm.
1% or 1.5%, that's no money. we want you to share with our audience how we can grow our monies by investing. So we like Dr. Alvin said, we really out of time. We got so much more we didn't cover, but we would love to
Yes.
have you join us again.
Okay. Now, I will have to confirm with you for next week Sunday because I know I have another commitment around the same time next week Sunday.
But if we
Uh,
don't get you next, whenever you free, we want you
okay.
back there.
Okay,
Yes.
Yeah,
no
we
problem.
Okay.
we want to
Okay.
cover those areas. Hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, because then we can look at the various type of investment vehicles. And please, I want to advise people to watch out for these scams they're putting out where you're
Yes,
getting all these return. Study the market. When I say study the markets, learn to understand how investment vehicles run in terms
hmm,
of how they're supposed to operate and the returns they're supposed to give you. Uh,
that's right.
the number of investment firms in the Bahamas, starting with BISEX, with Fidelity, Colina, all of them can advise you on proper vehicles for investing your funds. And one of the safest investment vehicles in most any country has always been government bonds and
Mhm.
stocks.
Yes,
They're
yes,
one of the safest because why? Because they're dependent on you.
that's right.
You form the government. As small as you are, you're part of the government. And so you got to
Hmm.
look at stuff that are basically relevant to the development, not only of global scene, but in your area, because some of the things that you would invest in will be based on countrywide or island-wide or nationwide. So those are things you want to take into consideration. Uh, and when you're investing in real estate, make sure you do a full analysis of the area, the location, the environmental side of it as well, because certain areas, no matter how promising they might look, might have an environmental impact that might not be good for you.
Right,
Wow.
Mm.
that's right.
Wow. So we got to bring him back, Doc. We got to
By
bring.
all means,
He is
yes,
full of wealth and wisdom. We
and that's
need.
what we need. Yes,
We need him back. Yes.
yes,
Yes. Thank you so
yes.
much for joining us today, Mr. Hepburn, and we are blessed that you came to share with us, and we know our listening audience because we had people chiming in. I don't know if you were able to read some of the comments, but people were chiming in saying what some of the things you were saying was excellent and great to hear it. So we thank you for joining us, and we say to our listening audience, thank you for tuning in. Dr. MacDonald and I, we work hard and try to bring to you people, cutting edge people who can help you and help your marriage and your relationship become better. And we leave you as always in the hands of the Lord. And I want to say this last thing because I try to say it every week, like Dr. Miles Monroe says, that marriage is a perfect union entered into by two imperfect beings. So know where you are and you work towards making that relationship
Yeah,
better. And it can
yes,
be better if you work it. Dr.
yes.
McDonald, your closing remarks, and we're out of here.
Well, I would like for our guests to stay tuned in for next week or when our guest is back so we can learn some things on how to budget, how to invest. Because as our guest has said it, there are many things that are going on that are not really true investments, but it's scams to take your
Yeah,
funds. So we
yeah.
would like for our guest to be a part of that discussion when he returns.
Okay.
So we will see you next week. We will stop here today because it was
Yeah.
a lot and there's much to digest. So we will see you next week. Like
Same place, same time.
yes.
Good
Thank
show,
you.
Doc.